Welcome back to the channel. Before we begin tonight's chilling story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new horror tale. And I have a question for you. What city are you watching from? And what time is it there right now? Leave your answer in the comments below. I read your comments with great excitement, and I love seeing where everyone is watching from around the world. Now dim the lights, get comfortable, and let's begin tonight's terrifying story. The first time I saw him, he was standing under the dead light at the edge of the parking lot, facing the store like he was waiting for it to blink. It was 2:17 in the morning. I remember the time because I had just looked at the register clock and thought, only 3 hours and 43 minutes left. That was my whole life back then. Counting hours, counting tips from the little coffee jar, counting how many bills I could ignore before my phone got shut off. I was 26, living in Albuquerque, working overnight at a 7-Eleven off a frontage road near I-40. I had moved back in with my aunt after a bad breakup and a worse lease situation, and I took the night shift because nobody else wanted it and because it paid an extra $1 an hour. The store wasn't scary in the way people think night places are scary. Most nights were just sad. Truckers buying coffee, drunk college kids arguing over taquitos, construction guys getting energy drinks before sunrise. Sometimes a homeless guy would come in and ask if I had any food we were throwing out. Sometimes I did. Sometimes I pretended I did, even when I wasn't supposed to. But after about 1:30, the place got hollow. The coolers hummed too loud. The hot dog rollers clicked every few seconds. The windows became mirrors. You couldn't see out, but anyone outside could see in. On the third night of my second week, I noticed the man. He was across the lot near the air pump, where one of the overhead lights had been flickering for months. He wore a gray hoodie, dark pants, and one of those baseball caps with a curved brim. He stood with his hands in his pockets, not moving. At first, I thought he was waiting for a ride. Then 5 minutes passed. Then 10. He never checked his phone, never looked around, never shifted his weight. He just faced the doors. I told myself not to stare. You learn that on night shift. Staring turns weird people into angry people. Around 2:35, a landscaping truck pulled in, and I looked down to count the drawer. When I looked back up, the man was gone. That should have been the end of it. Except the next night, at exactly 2:17, he was back. Same spot, same hoodie, same posture. I actually laughed under my breath because I thought maybe I was losing it. Lack of sleep does things to you. I had been getting off at 6, getting home at 6:30, sleeping until noon if my aunt's dogs didn't bark, then lying awake until my shift because my brain wouldn't shut up. So I rationalized it. Maybe he worked nearby. Maybe he had a ride that picked him up from there. Maybe he was homeless and didn't want to come inside because he thought I'd call the cops. I even almost waved once. I'm glad I didn't. On the fourth night, he was closer. Not a lot closer, just enough that I noticed. Instead of standing by the air pump, he stood beside the ice freezer outside the front wall. Still not coming in. Still facing the glass. I checked the clock. 2:17. I felt that little drop in my stomach, the one you get when a pattern becomes too clean. I grabbed the store phone and called my manager, Denise. She was a tired woman in her 50s who smoked behind the dumpster and treated fear like it was a personal insult. She answered on the fourth ring, half asleep. "What's on fire?" "There's this guy outside again," I said. "Same guy, same time. Is he doing anything?" "No. That's the weird part." "Then ignore him. If he comes in and causes trouble, hit the panic button." "I don't think the panic button works." "It works enough." Then she hung up. I watched him from behind the counter. The whole front of the store was glass, but at night it reflected the inside more than the outside, so I could only see him clearly when a car passed on the frontage road and its headlights washed over him. Each time the light hit him, he looked flatter somehow, like there was no face under the brim, just shadow. The next morning, I mentioned him to Luis, the morning guy. Luis was 40, had 3 kids, and believed every strange thing was either drugs or divorce. "Probably trying to decide whether to steal beer," he said. "He doesn't come in. Then he's deciding slowly." I wanted that to make me feel better. It didn't. The 5th night, I checked the cameras. Our security system was ancient. 4 screens above the cigarette rack, each showing a grainy black and white view. front doors, counter, aisle 2, and parking lot. The parking lot camera had a smear in the corner from some old rain damage. At 2:16, there was no one outside. At 2:17, he was there. I didn't see him walk up. He was just standing by the ice freezer. I leaned closer to the monitor. His face was hidden by a bright white glare. Not shadow, glare. It looked like the camera had caught light reflecting off something under his cap, but there was no light pointed at him from that angle. I switched views. On the front door camera, same thing. White blur where his face should have been. On the parking lot camera, same. I took a picture of the monitor with my phone, but the photo came out worse, just lines and static. That was the first night I locked the front doors for 10 minutes, even though I wasn't supposed to. A woman in scrubs came up to buy coffee and yanked on the door. "You closed?" I unlocked it and apologized. She rolled her eyes and came in. When she left, the man was gone. I started changing my routine after that. I moved the mop bucket closer to the counter, so I'd have something heavy nearby. I kept my phone charged. I stopped wearing earbuds while stocking the cooler. By the 7th night, I knew the sound of 2:17 before the clock changed. The store would go still. Not quiet, still. No cars, no customers, no wind against the doors. Just the coolers humming like they were holding their breath. That night, he stood directly outside the entrance. Not touching the door, not peering in, just standing there, centered between the two glass doors, his head tilted slightly down. I could see my own reflection layered over him. My pale face, my green 7-Eleven polo, the fluorescent lights above me. Then his hand came up. He tapped once on the glass. I backed away from the counter, so fast my hip hit the cigarette cabinet. He didn't tap again. I called 911. I felt stupid before the dispatcher even answered. What was I supposed to say? A man is standing. A man knocked. Still, I said it. There's a guy outside the store. He's been coming every night. Same time. He won't leave. Is he threatening you? He's just standing there. Can you describe him? Gray hoodie, dark pants, baseball cap. I said all of that. Then I added, I can't see his face. The dispatcher told me to stay inside and keep the doors locked if I felt unsafe. She said an officer would swing by when available. Available took 26 minutes. By then the man was gone. The officer who came in was young and bored. He watched the footage, scratched his cheek, and said, "Camera bloom. Happens with reflective material." So he's wearing something? Maybe sunglasses. Maybe tape on the brim. At 2 in the morning? He shrugged. People are weird. He gave me an incident number and told me to call again if the man tried to enter. For 2 nights, the man didn't come back. I almost convinced myself the police car had scared him off. Then, on Friday, the doors slid open at 2:17. I was behind the counter, putting fresh receipt paper into the register. The sound of the door chime made my hands freeze. He walked in slowly. The air changed when he entered. Not in a supernatural way. Just that damp outside smell, like old fabric and rainwater, even though it hadn't rained. He was average height, thinner than I expected. His hoodie hung off him. The brim of his cap was pulled low, and now I could see why the camera couldn't catch his face. He had strips of reflective silver tape stuck along the underside of the brim and across the bridge of a pair of safety glasses. It was deliberate. That scared me more than not knowing. "Can I help you?" I asked. My voice cracked on help. He didn't answer. He walked past the chips, past the coffee station, straight to the counter. His shoes made almost no sound on the tile. I kept my hand under the counter near the panic button. He reached into his hoodie pocket and placed something on the counter. An old receipt. Yellowed. Folded soft at the edges. The ink was faded but still readable. 7-Eleven number 34822. 2:17 a.m. Cashier, Marco R. My name is Marco Reyes. I had only started there last month. I looked up at him. He was smiling. I couldn't see his mouth, but I could tell from the way his cheeks moved under the glasses. "That's not funny," I said. He tapped the receipt with one finger. The fingernail was dirty and split. Then he turned and walked out. He didn't run. Didn't look back. Just left like he had finished an errand. I locked the doors immediately and called Denise, then 911 again. Denise got there before the police. She came in angry, hair wet from a shower, wearing sweatpants and a jacket. "What receipt?" she snapped. I handed it to her. All the anger drained out of her face. I had never seen someone go pale like that. People say that in stories, but I mean it literally. Her lips lost color. "Where did you get this?" "He brought it in." "Who?" "The guy I've been telling you about." She sat down on the milk crate behind the counter and held the receipt with both hands. "That's not your receipt," she said. "No kidding." She looked up at me. There was another Marco Reyes. The police arrived while she was still explaining. 10 years earlier, before Denise managed that location, a night cashier named Marco Reyes had vanished during his shift. He was 28. Same last name. Same first name. No relation to me, as far as anyone knew. The official story was that he walked out sometime between 2:10 and 2:30 in the morning. His car was still parked behind the store. His phone was found under the counter. No money was missing from the register. No signs of a fight. The cameras that night had malfunctioned. That was the word in the report. Malfunctioned. Denise had only heard about it when she transferred in. She said older employees used to joke about it until corporate told them to stop bringing it up. I told the officers about the man, the exact time, the reflective tape, the receipt. They took it in an evidence bag. They asked if I had touched it. I had. Of course I had. They pulled footage. This time, because he came inside, they got enough of him to send around internally. Not a clear face, but height, build, clothes, gait. The reflective tape made his head look like a white smear on every camera. The officer who had dismissed it as camera bloom came back too. He didn't look bored this time. For the next week, a patrol car parked outside during my shift. The man didn't return. Then detectives found something that made it worse. The receipt was real. It had been printed from that store 10 years ago, minutes before the other Marco disappeared. It had been part of the original evidence inventory, then somehow went missing from a storage box years later during a records transfer. Nobody could explain how the man got it. Nobody could explain why he brought it to me. And nobody could explain how he knew my schedule, my name, or the exact night I would be alone. I quit 2 days later. People act like quitting means the fear stops. It doesn't. It just changes locations. Now I work days at an auto parts store. I don't take overnight shifts. I don't sit facing windows after dark. I don't like gas stations with glass fronts, and I never let a receipt print without looking at the cashier name. Sometimes, when I wake up at night for no reason, I check my phone. It is almost always around 2:17. Story 2. The manager told me the cameras glitched sometimes, but he said it in the same voice people use when they tell you not to worry about a weird noise in their car. Like they already know it's worse than that. I was 21, working my first overnight shift alone at a 7-Eleven in Salem, Oregon, just off a road that led to warehouses and a recycling plant. I had dropped out of community college that spring after my dad's stroke because somebody had to help keep the house afloat. My mom worked days at a clinic. I worked nights wherever they would take me. The store manager, Pete, trained me for 3 evenings and then handed me the keys like that made me qualified. "Night shift is mostly coffee and cigarettes," he said. "Don't argue with drunk people. Don't chase shoplifters. Don't sleep. And don't freak out if camera 3 does something weird." "What does that mean?" He looked up at the monitor above the register. Aisle 3 was candy, medicine, and phone chargers. The camera angle showed the aisle from the back corner, high up, with the cooler doors reflecting light on the far side. "Sometimes it lags," Pete said. "Old system. Corporate keeps saying they'll replace it." "What kind of lag?" "You'll see someone on screen who already left. Or it'll freeze. Just check the aisle with your eyes before you call me crying." He smiled when he said it, but not with his eyes. My first shift started normal. A guy came in at midnight for scratchers and complained that the machine always picked losing tickets. A woman bought baby formula with quarters and apologized 6 times. Around 1:15, a teenager tried to buy beer with an ID that said he was 47. After 2 o'clock, the store emptied out. Rain tapped the windows, soft but constant. The parking lot lights reflected in the puddles, turning the asphalt into broken yellow patches. Every time a truck passed, the glass shook a little. I stocked cigarettes, wiped down the coffee area, and tried not to think about how alone I was. At 2:58, the monitor beeped. Not loud, just one digital chirp. I looked up. A woman stood in aisle 3. She faced the shelves, hands at her sides. She wore a tan coat with the hood down, dark jeans, and white shoes. Her hair was wet or greasy, hanging to her shoulders. She wasn't browsing. She wasn't reading labels. She just stood there, close to the cold medicine. I looked directly at aisle 3. Empty. My first thought was lag. Exactly like Pete said. I walked over, annoyed more than scared, because I didn't want to be the new guy who called the manager over a camera glitch. The aisle was empty. No woman. No wet footprints. No sound except the rain and cooler hum. I went back behind the counter. On the monitor, she was still there. Same position. I waved my hand in front of camera 3 from the end of the aisle. On the monitor, my arm appeared, blurred and delayed by maybe 1 second. The woman did not move. That was when my annoyance started turning into something else. I checked the front door camera. No one had entered in almost 40 minutes. I checked the counter camera. Just me, standing there with my mouth slightly open like an idiot. Then the woman on camera 3 turned her head. Slowly. Not toward the aisle. Toward the camera. Her face was blurry, but I could see she was looking up. I backed away from the monitors. Nope, I said out loud. I called Pete. He didn't answer. I called again. Voicemail. The store phone rang right after that, making me jump so hard I hit my elbow on the lotto machine. I picked it up. 7-Eleven. For 2 seconds, there was only static. Then a woman whispered, "Don't go back there." I slammed the phone down. It rang again immediately. I didn't answer. On the monitor, the woman raised one arm. She pointed toward the back storage room. The storage room door was behind the counter, past the office nook and the employee restroom. I had locked it at midnight because Pete told me homeless people sometimes tried to sneak in when deliveries came. I could see the hallway from where I stood. The storage room door was open 2 inches. It had not been opened before. I know people always say that. I know memory gets messy under stress. But I remember locking it because the key stuck, and I had to wiggle it while saying every swear word I knew under my breath. Now it was cracked. I grabbed the metal ruler we used to unjam receipt paper. That was my weapon, a ruler. I also took my phone and started recording because I wanted proof. I didn't want Pete telling everyone I got scared by a glitch. "Hello?" I called. No answer. The rain got louder, or maybe the store got quieter. I stepped into the hallway. 1 step, then another. The storage room smelled like cardboard and mop water. The light switch was inside on the left, which meant I had to reach into the dark to turn it on. I didn't. I used my phone flashlight instead. The beam hit stacks of soda boxes, paper towel rolls, a broken promotional sign, and the metal shelves along the back wall. Something moved behind the shelves. I heard it before I saw it. A soft drag. Fabric against concrete. I ran. Not far. Just back to the counter. But I ran so fast I knocked over the trash can. The monitor beeped again. Camera 3 showed the woman still in the aisle. Now she was pointing with both hands. Not at the storage room. At the counter. At me. The store phone rang. I let it ring. Then my cell phone vibrated. Unknown number. I answered because panic makes you stupid. A woman's voice whispered, "He can see you on the monitor." I said, "Who is this?" The line went dead. Right then, the storage room door opened wider. A man stepped out. He was wearing a black rain jacket and latex gloves, the kind food workers use. He had a cloth mask pulled up over his nose. Not a Halloween mask. Just something to hide his face. He froze when he saw me behind the counter. For half a second, neither of us moved. Then he rushed forward. I hit the panic button and ran out from behind the register, toward the front doors. He slipped on the trash can lid I had knocked over. That bought me maybe 2 seconds. I screamed. Not words. Just sound. The doors slid open, and I ran into the rain without my jacket. A pickup truck was pulling into the lot. I sprinted toward it, waving both arms. The driver, a middle-aged guy with a beard and a work vest, rolled down his window halfway. "Help me!" I yelled. "There's someone inside." The man from the storage room stopped at the doors. He didn't come out. He looked at the pickup, looked at me, then turned and disappeared back inside. The pickup driver called 911 while I crouched beside his passenger door, soaked and shaking. He kept saying, "Stay where I can see you, buddy. Stay right there." Police arrived in 4 minutes. It felt like 20. They cleared the store with guns drawn. The back door was propped open with a brick. The man was gone. But they found the setup. Someone had cut a small hole in the wall behind the soda display in aisle 3, where an old cable line ran into the office. A cheap mini camera had been hidden behind a row of phone chargers. It fed into a small receiver taped under the counter, near the store's monitor system. The woman on camera 3 wasn't in the store. It was a video, a recorded loop, played into the monitor feed to keep my attention exactly where they wanted it. The woman in the footage was real, though. That was the part that stuck. Behind the shelf in the storage room, officers found an old missing person flyer taped flat against the wall, hidden behind a stack of discontinued cups. The flyer showed a woman named Dana Whitcomb. She had disappeared from that same area 6 years earlier after leaving a bus stop near the store. The woman in the video looked like her. Not exactly, because the footage was grainy and the flyer was old, but close enough that one of the officers stopped talking when he saw it. Later, detectives told me they believed the man had been living in and around closed businesses nearby, watching night employees, learning routines. They thought he used the old flyer and footage to scare workers away from the counter, so he could get into the register or back office. But that didn't explain the calls. The calls came from inside the store phone line, routed through a cheap device plugged into the office jack. The unknown cell number belonged to a prepaid phone found in the dumpster, wiped clean except for one outgoing call to my number. They never told me who the woman's voice was. Maybe it was a recording too. Maybe there was an accomplice. Maybe someone else had been watching him and tried to warn me. That last possibility bothers me the most, because it means there could have been someone nearby who knew exactly what was happening and still couldn't come inside. The police report called the incident attempted robbery and unlawful surveillance. Corporate called it an isolated security breach. Pete called me 3 days later and asked if I could come in Sunday because they were short-staffed. I hung up. I still see security cameras everywhere now. Grocery stores, gas stations, apartment lobbies. I look at them and wonder who is actually watching and what they're choosing not to show. And sometimes, when a monitor flickers in the corner of my eye, I don't look at the screen first. I look behind me. Story 3. The fake delivery driver knew my name before I gave it to him. That's what I keep coming back to. Not the boxes, not the questions, not even the way his smile disappeared when the real truck pulled in. My name. He said it like we had already met. I was 32 then, working overnights at a 7-Eleven in Joliet, Illinois, after my warehouse job cut half the staff. I had a 6-year-old daughter, a custody arrangement I was terrified of messing up, and a checking account that was almost always one bad week from empty. Night shift worked because my mom could watch my daughter while she slept. I hated it, but I needed it. Our store got deliveries at weird hours. Sometimes bread at midnight. Sometimes dairy at 2. The big dry goods delivery usually came around 3:30 on Thursdays. Same driver almost every week, a guy named Anthony who complained about his knees and brought his own coffee mug. That night, rain had turned the parking lot into a black mirror. The kind of rain that makes headlights smear across the windows. At 3:08, a white box truck pulled in. No logo on the side, which was unusual, but not impossible. The regular trucks sometimes came rented when one broke down. A man climbed out wearing a dark delivery jacket and a baseball cap with a stitched convenience distributor logo. He opened the back, pulled out a dolly with 4 sealed boxes, and rolled them toward the entrance. I buzzed the delivery door open. He came in smiling. "You Marcus?" he asked. I stopped with my hand still on the door release. "Yeah, cool. I was told you'd be here." He said it casually, like that was normal. "Anthony off tonight?" I asked. "Something like that." The answer sat wrong. He rolled the boxes toward the back hallway. I stepped in front of him. "I need the sheet first." Yeah, I got you." He patted his jacket pockets, then laughed. "Man, I left it in the cab. Let me just drop these and I'll grab it." "No sheet, no drop." His smile held, but his eyes didn't. Strict guy. Store policy. He looked around the store like he was seeing it for the first time and memorizing it at the same time. "You alone tonight, Marcus?" That was the second thing. Delivery guys make small talk. They complain about routes, weather, bosses, prices. They do not ask if you're alone before showing paperwork. I forced a laugh. Why? Just asking. Some stores have 2 people overnight. Not this one. I hated myself the second I said it. He nodded slowly. Cameras work? I stared at him. He pointed up at the monitor. Only asking because some places make us sign camera logs now. Liability stuff. That was not a thing. At least not for us. They work, I said. He looked at the camera above the hallway, then the one over the register, then the one facing the front doors. Where's the office? What company are you with? He laughed again, but this time it was thinner. Man, you're serious. I'm calling my manager. Go ahead. He said it too fast. I picked up the store phone and dialed Lisa, my manager. It rang and rang. No answer. The driver watched me with that same polite smile. Middle of the night, he said. People sleep. I tried Anthony next because he had once given me his number after a delivery mix-up. It went straight to voicemail. The driver leaned against the dolly. You want me to wait in the rain? You're inside. You know what I mean. The store felt suddenly too bright, too exposed. Fluorescent lights buzzing, coffee machine hissing, the rain beating against the windows hard enough to cover small sounds. A customer came in then, a young woman in scrubs buying an energy drink. I wanted to say something to her. I wanted to ask her to stay, but the driver was standing right there. She paid, barely looked up, and left. When the doors closed behind her, the driver's face changed for half a second. Annoyance. Real annoyance. Like she had interrupted something scheduled. I moved behind the counter. I can't accept anything without paperwork. He sighed. Marcus, listen. I'm already behind. I've got 8 more stops. You sign, I leave. Everybody's happy. You haven't given me anything to sign. He reached into his jacket. I stepped back. He noticed. Slowly, he pulled out a folded paper. Relax. He handed it over. It wasn't a delivery sheet. It was a printed map of our store layout. Not official. Not detailed like blueprints. More like someone had drawn it from memory or from walking around. Front doors. Register. Bathroom. Cooler. Storage room. Back exit. There were little circles marking the cameras. My mouth went dry. He realized his mistake the same moment I did. For a second, the whole store froze. Then headlights washed across the front windows. A truck was pulling into the lot. A real delivery truck. Full logo on the side. Anthony behind the wheel. The fake driver turned his head toward the window. His smile vanished. I don't mean it faded. It shut off. He looked back at me, and for the first time there was nothing friendly in his face. Back up, I said. My voice sounded small. He looked at the store phone in my hand, the panic button under the counter, the real truck outside. Then he did something that scared me more than if he had shouted. He calmly turned the dolly around. Wrong store, he said. No, stay where you are. He walked toward the back hallway. I hit the panic button. He moved faster. I yelled, Anthony. Anthony was already getting out of the truck. He looked confused until he saw the fake driver through the glass. Then his face changed. The fake driver shoved through the back door and into the rain. I didn't follow. I'm not brave like that. I locked myself behind the counter and kept yelling into the store phone after 911 picked up. Anthony came in holding a tire iron, breathing hard. Where'd he go? Back door. You okay? No. Police found the white box truck 2 blocks away, abandoned behind a closed tire shop. Plate stolen. Interior wiped down. The uniform jacket was gone. The boxes he brought in were still by the hallway. Officers opened them in the store. Empty. All 4. Except the bottom box. Inside was a 7-Eleven name tag still in plastic. Marcus. Printed cleanly. Same font as ours. Under it was a folded pair of black gloves. I had to sit down on the floor when they showed me. The officers asked if I knew anyone who would want to scare me. Any angry customers. Any custody issues. Any exes. Any debts. I said no to all of it, but the truth is, when you work nights in a place like that, dozens of people learn your face while you don't learn theirs. They know when you're alone. They know when the cops usually drive by. They know how often you step outside to smoke, even if you only do it twice a night. The official explanation was attempted robbery. Maybe worse, but they didn't say that part in the report. Anthony told police his truck had been delayed because someone had called the distribution center pretending to be from our store and reported that our delivery should be pushed back 30 minutes. The number used was prepaid. That means the fake driver didn't just show up randomly. He planned for a window. He knew I would be there. He knew Anthony wouldn't. And he expected me to let him into the back. Lisa pulled the security footage the next morning. On camera, the fake driver looked normal at first. Friendly, tired, harmless. But when Anthony's headlights hit the window, you could see his shoulders drop. Like the whole act fell off him. There was one frame, right before he turned toward the back door, where he looked directly into the camera above the register. The reflective rain on his cap hid most of his face. But his mouth was visible. He was smiling again. I quit that week. Not right away. I told myself I needed the money. I lasted 2 more shifts with a patrol car outside and Anthony calling before every delivery. Then one night a man came in wearing a dark jacket and asked, "You Marcus?" because he saw my name tag. I locked myself in the office and cried so hard Lisa had to come get me. Now I work at a tire shop during the day. Less money, but I get to sleep at night. My daughter thinks I changed jobs because I like cars. I let her think that. I still have the name tag the fake driver brought in. The police gave it back after the case went cold. I keep it in a plastic bag inside a shoebox, not because I want it, but because throwing it away feels like pretending it didn't happen. Sometimes I take it out and look at my name printed there. Marcus. Clean. Centered. Ready to be worn by somebody else. Story 4. The knocking stopped every time I looked at the restroom door. That was the part one couldn't get past later, when the police kept asking me to explain why I didn't just leave. Because I should have left. I know that. I was 18, still in high school, working closing shifts at a movie theater in Fresno because my mom needed help with rent, and my little brother needed asthma medicine that insurance only half covered. Most nights I got off around 11:45 and walked home, because taking rides from co-workers made me feel like a burden. It was a dumb pride thing. I can admit that now. The 7-Eleven on Cedar was about halfway between the theater and my apartment. It sat on the corner beside a laundromat and a closed check-cashing place, with a bus stop out front and a parking lot that always smelled like spilled beer. I had stopped there plenty of times. Usually the same older cashier worked nights. His name was Ray. He called everyone boss, even kids. That night it was cold for Fresno, windy enough that trash kept sliding across the sidewalk. I had been holding my bladder since the last showing of a superhero movie, and by the time I reached the 7-Eleven, I was walking fast and angry at myself. The cashier behind the counter wasn't Ray. He was younger, maybe late 20s, with a thin mustache and a green polo that looked too big on him. He was wiping the counter with a paper towel, even though it already looked clean. "Restroom?" I asked. "Out of order," he said immediately. "Not sorry. Not keys lost. Just out of order." I pointed toward the back. "Really? I just need like 2 minutes." "Out of order." His eyes didn't meet mine. They stayed somewhere around my chest, not in a creepy way exactly, more like he didn't want to look at my face. Then I heard it. 3 knocks. Not loud, not frantic, just 3 soft knocks from behind the restroom door. I looked down the aisle. The restroom was at the end of the hall past the soda coolers, with a white paper sign taped to it that said "out of order" in thick black marker. I turned back to the cashier. He had stopped wiping. "You hear that?" I asked. "Hear what?" Another knock. 1, 2, 3. The cashier's jaw tightened. "Pipes," he said. I almost laughed because it was such a bad lie. Pipes don't knock like a person trying not to be heard. I should have walked out right then and called someone. But I was tired, and I had this stupid thought that maybe the cashier had locked someone in there by accident and was embarrassed. Or maybe some drunk guy was sleeping in there and the cashier didn't want to deal with it. So I pretended to browse. I walked to the snack aisle, picked up a bag of chips, put it down, picked up another one. The whole time, I watched the restroom hallway and the reflection on the cooler doors. The cashier watched me back. Every time I got closer to the hallway, he came out from behind the counter. "You need help finding something?" "No." "You buying something?" "Yeah, maybe." He smiled then. It was too quick. "You should go home. It's late." That made my skin tighten. I texted my friend Nia. "Call me." She didn't answer. She was probably asleep. I looked back at the restroom. The handle turned. Slowly. Not all the way. Just enough that the metal caught the ceiling light. Then it stopped. The cashier saw me see it. "Hey," he said. I jumped. He was at the end of the aisle now, no longer behind the counter. He held the paper towel in one hand, twisted tight. "You need to leave." "Why?" "Because I said so." His voice had changed. Not louder. Flatter. I backed toward the drinks. "I'm just picking something." "No, you're not." He stepped closer. The front doors chimed, and a man in a delivery jacket came in talking on his phone. The cashier instantly turned normal. "Welcome in," he said. The delivery guy nodded and headed to the coffee. That tiny interruption probably saved me. I moved toward the counter like I was going to pay. The cashier followed, keeping himself between me and the restroom hallway. While he rang up the delivery guy's coffee, I saw something behind the counter. A key ring hanging on a hook under the cigarette shelves. One key had a plastic tag that said restroom. My heart started beating, so hard I could feel it in my gums. I don't know why I did it. I guess because I had already decided someone was in there. Someone was knocking. Someone might need help. The delivery guy left. The cashier turned to me. "You want those chips?" I had no chips in my hand. He looked at my empty hands, then at my face, and his expression shifted. At that exact second, my phone rang. "Nia." I answered and put it on speaker before I even said hello. "Where are you?" she mumbled. 7-Eleven on Cedar, I said loudly. "The cashier won't let me use the restroom, but someone's knocking inside." The cashier moved fast. He reached over the counter like he was going to grab my phone. I stepped back and knocked over a display of gum. Boxes scattered everywhere. Nia's voice sharpened. "What? Get out." The cashier came around the counter. I grabbed the key ring. It wasn't heroic. It wasn't smooth. I fumbled it so badly half the keys clanged against the floor, and for one awful second the cashier and I both stared at them. Then I ran. Down the little hallway. Past the soda cooler. My shoes slipped on a wet patch near the mop bucket. The cashier shouted, "Don't open that." That made me open it faster. The restroom key stuck halfway. I turned it the wrong direction first. My hands were shaking so badly I almost dropped the ring. Behind me, he was coming. The lock clicked. I pushed the door open. The restroom was empty. Completely empty. No person. No broken pipe. No back exit. Just a toilet, a sink, a trash can, and the buzzing fluorescent light. For 1 second, my brain couldn't make sense of it. Then I saw the phone. It was lying on the floor beside the trash can, propped against the wall, still recording video. The screen showed my legs in the doorway. A charging cable ran from the phone to the outlet near the sink. The cashier stopped behind me. I could hear him breathing. "Give me that," he said. I picked up the phone. He lunged. I ducked sideways, hit my shoulder on the sink, and ran out of the restroom with the phone clutched to my chest. He grabbed the back of my hoodie, but the fabric stretched and tore at the seam. I slipped out of it and bolted into the store. Nia was still on speaker, screaming my name. I yelled, "Call 911." The cashier chased me to the front doors. They didn't open. For half a second, I thought they were locked, and that was the worst moment of my life. Then I realized I was pushing instead of letting the sensor catch me. I stepped back, the doors slid apart, and I ran into the parking lot without my hoodie. A car horn blared. I almost fell off the curb. The cashier didn't follow me outside. He stood just inside the glass, watching. Nia stayed on the phone until police arrived. I crouched behind the bus stop bench with the stranger's phone in my hand, shaking so hard I couldn't type my passcode into my own. The first officer took the phone from me and asked where the cashier was. I pointed, but when they went inside, he was gone. The back door was open. The real cashier, Ray, was found 20 minutes later behind the dumpsters. He had been hit and tied with an extension cord. He was alive, confused, and kept saying, "He had my shirt." They took Ray to the hospital. He had a concussion and bruised wrists. I gave a statement in the back of a patrol car because I couldn't stop shaking. The phone from the restroom belonged to a woman named Marisol Vega. She was 23. She had come in earlier that night and noticed something was wrong before I did. Her video showed the fake cashier dragging Ray behind the counter area after pretending to ask for help with a prepaid card. Then the video cut because she hid in the restroom and started recording again. The part that still makes me sick is the whisper. On the video, Marisol is crouched beside the trash can, breathing into her sleeve. Story 5. The first text came while I was standing between the candy aisle and the front window, pretending to care about gum. Don't make this harder. Come outside. I read it 3 times before my brain understood that whoever sent it could see me. I was 19, not a kid exactly, but not fully grown either. I lived in a suburb outside Tacoma with my dad and stepmom, and I worked afternoons at an after-school program because I wanted to save for community college without asking anybody for money. That day had been awful in a normal way. Rain all afternoon. A parent yelling at me because her son lost his jacket. My bike chain slipping twice on the ride home. I remember being hungry and embarrassed because my debit card had been declined at lunch, so all I had eaten was half a granola bar from my backpack. The 7-Eleven was on my route home, just past the high school football field. I stopped there sometimes for cheap coffee or a banana. I noticed the car 3 blocks before the store. A dark blue sedan with one foggy headlight. At first, I thought it was just traffic. It turned when I turned, slowed when I slowed. When I got off my bike to walk across a bad patch of sidewalk, it rolled forward slowly behind me. My hands went cold. I made a random turn onto Maple, then another into the 7-Eleven lot. The car followed. It didn't pull up to a pump. It parked across the lot near the dumpster, headlights off, engine running. I left my bike near the front window and went inside. The cashier was a woman maybe in her 40s with tired eyes and a red cardigan over her uniform. Her name tag said Kim. "You okay?" she asked immediately. That almost made me cry. I think that car followed me. She didn't laugh. She didn't do the thing adults sometimes do where they make you prove your fear before they respect it. She looked past me through the glass. "Blue sedan?" "Yeah. Stay near the counter." I walked over like my legs didn't belong to me. Kim picked up the store phone and kept her eyes on the window. "Do you know them?" "No." "Ex-boyfriend? Friend's car? Somebody from school?" "No." "You got your phone?" I nodded. "Call someone." "Put them on speaker." I called my dad. No answer. I called again. No answer. He worked construction and always left his phone in the truck. Kim quietly locked the side entrance, then came back to the counter. The car moved. It pulled out from near the dumpster and parked by the air pump. Still facing the store. Still no headlights. Kim watched it. "That's not normal," she said. Hearing her say that made the fear real in a way I wasn't ready for. A man came in to buy cigarettes. Kim leaned toward him and said low, "Can you hang around for a minute?" That car's been following her. The man looked at me, then at the car. "Yeah," he said. "I got you." His name was later listed in the police report as a witness, but to me he'll always just be the guy who didn't leave. He stood by the coffee station and pretended to stir creamer into a cup he never drank. The sedan moved again. This time it parked beside my bike. My stomach dropped. My bike was locked to nothing. I had just leaned it there because I expected to be inside for 2 minutes. Kim said, "Get behind the counter." "Am I allowed?" "Right now you are." I slipped behind the counter, crouching a little even though that probably made me look more scared, not less. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. The text was there. "Don't make this harder. Come outside." I held it up to Kim. Her face changed. "Call 911, she said. I did. The dispatcher asked for the address, my name, what the car looked like, whether I could see the driver. "I can't," I said. "The windows are dark." The witness by the coffee station stepped closer to the window. "Plates covered," he said. "Looks like paper or mud." Kim repeated it to the dispatcher. Then a second text came. "Tell the lady to stop talking." Kim saw it and went still. The person wasn't just watching me. They were watching Kim too. From inside the car, that might have been possible. The front of the store was glass. But the angle was wrong. The car was beside my bike now, closer to the left side of the building. From there, you could see me behind the counter, maybe, but Kim had stepped back near the lottery display. The witness said, "There's another person." He pointed with his chin, not his hand. At the back of the store, near the restroom hallway, a man in a gray hoodie stood by the freezer doors. I had not seen him come in. He wasn't shopping. He was holding his phone low, near his hip, with the camera pointed toward us. Kim said quietly, "Sir, you need to leave." The man didn't move. The dispatcher was still on the phone, asking if the person inside had a weapon. I couldn't answer. My throat had locked. The man in the hoodie smiled a little and typed something. My phone buzzed. Last chance. The witness moved between me and the aisle. "Police are on the way," he said loudly. The man in the hoodie slipped his phone into his pocket and walked toward the doors. Kim yelled, "Don't let him near the girl." The witness followed him at a distance, but he didn't grab him, which was smart. Nobody knew what this was yet. The hoodie man left the store. The blue sedan's passenger door opened. He got in. Then the sedan backed out fast, almost hitting a pump, and sped onto the street without headlights. The police arrived less than 2 minutes later. Too late to catch them, but fast enough that I was still on the phone with dispatch when the first officer walked in. I remember the officer asking if I was hurt, and I remember saying no even though I felt like something had happened to my body. My hands were numb. My face tingled. My knees kept bending. They took my phone. They took Kim's statement. They got the witness's statement. They pulled the store footage. On the video, you could see the hoodie man enter 3 minutes before I did. That was the part that made everyone quiet. He was already inside. He had been waiting near the back when I came in scared about the car. The sedan didn't follow me into the lot by chance. It pushed me there. The hoodie man filmed me from inside while the driver watched from outside. Police found my bike untouched, which almost made it worse. It proved they weren't after the bike. They wanted me outside. Kim offered to drive me home, but the officer said my dad needed to come to the store. When he finally answered and arrived, he looked 10 years older than he had that morning. He kept saying, "I'm sorry, baby," even though it wasn't his fault. After the police finished, I walked outside with my dad and 2 officers. That's when I found the photo. It was tucked under my bike seat. A printed photo, not a Polaroid. A regular color print, folded once. It showed me standing inside the 7-Eleven, half hidden behind the counter, holding my phone. The angle was from inside the store, taken only minutes earlier. Kim saw it and covered her mouth. The officers put it in an evidence bag. Later, detectives told us they believed the hoodie man had a small portable photo printer in a backpack or car, the kind people use for phones. They thought the photo was meant to scare me into silence or prove they had gotten close. They never found the sedan. The number that texted me was prepaid and shut off within the hour. The plate covering wasn't mud. It was a taped-on sheet of dark plastic that reflected glare on camera. For a while, police thought it might be connected to attempted abductions in nearby towns, but nothing was ever confirmed. That phrase, "nothing was ever confirmed," became the sentence I hated most. Because it means the fear stays open. No arrest. No reason. No face clear enough to recognize. Just a report number and a copy of the footage sitting somewhere in a file. I stopped riding my bike after that. I stopped walking into stores without checking who was already inside. I stopped ignoring cars that turned when I turned. My stepmom said I was hyper-aware, like it was a phase, like my nervous system had just picked up a hobby. But the worst change is that I don't trust relief anymore. That night, I thought the 7-Eleven was safety. Bright lights, cameras, a cashier who believed me, and it was safety in a way. But someone had counted on me running there. Now, whenever I enter a well-lit place at night, I don't just look for exits. I look for the person who arrived before me. Story 6. The second version of the story is the one the police believed. The first version is what I actually saw. I was 24 working nights at a small 7-Eleven in Mesa, Arizona, while finishing an online certification in medical billing. I had moved there after my mom died because my older sister lived nearby, but really I was alone most of the time. I worked, studied, slept badly, and repeated it. Our store had one public restroom, and it was a problem every single shift. People used it to steal, sleep, get sick, wash clothes in the sink, anything you can imagine. So my manager told me to keep it locked after midnight and only open it for customers who bought something. At 1:40 on a Tuesday morning, a man came in wearing a clean button-up shirt tucked into jeans. That was the first thing I noticed. Too clean for the hour. He bought a bottle of water and asked for the restroom key. I gave it to him. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. I knocked. "You okay in there?" No answer. I knocked again. A voice said, "1 second." It didn't sound like the man. It sounded younger. I stepped back from the door and told myself I was imagining it through the cheap wood and buzzing vent fan. At 15 minutes, I knocked harder. The door opened. The man in the button-up shirt came out smiling, handed me the key and said, "Sorry. Bad gas station sushi." We didn't sell sushi. I watched him walk out to a white SUV parked by the side wall. I cleaned the coffee station, but my eyes kept going back to the restroom door. At 2:05, I heard knocking from inside. 3 quick knocks. I froze. The key was back behind the counter. I had locked the restroom after the man left. Nobody else had gone in. I walked halfway down the hall. "Hello." Silence. I waited. Nothing. I went back to the counter and checked the camera. The restroom hallway camera showed only the closed door. I should have called police right then. But night shift teaches you to doubt yourself. You see things in reflections. You hear ice machines drop and think it's footsteps. You smell smoke where there isn't smoke. I didn't want to be the cashier who called 911 because a bathroom knocked. Then a teenage boy came in. He looked maybe 17, with a backpack slung over one shoulder and a tired face. He asked to use the restroom. "It's out of order," I said. The words came out automatically, but the second I said them, the restroom knocked again. The boy looked at the door. I felt my face go hot. He said, "There's someone in there." "No, there isn't." I knew how insane that sounded. He stared at me, then at the door, then back at me. "Should we check?" "No," I said too fast. Because by then I was scared in a way I couldn't explain. Not scared of someone being in there. Scared of why they were in there. Scared of what I had allowed when I handed that man the key. The boy pretended to browse, but I could tell he was watching me. Good. He should have been. I was acting wrong. The handle moved. Just a little turn, then release. The boy saw it. He grabbed the key from behind the counter while I was on the phone with my manager, who wasn't answering, and ran down the hall. I yelled at him not to open it. He did. The restroom was empty. That was what made the police skeptical later. Empty room. No window. No ceiling vent big enough for a person. No second door. Just a phone on the floor, recording. The boy picked it up. That's when the man in the button-up shirt came back inside. I saw him over the boy's shoulder. He had changed. Not clothes. Face. The polite customer face was gone. I screamed, "Run." The boy spun around. The man lunged for him, but I threw the metal restroom key ring at his face. It hit his cheek, not hard enough to hurt him badly, but enough to make him flinch. The boy ran past him. The man grabbed me instead. I don't remember hitting the floor. I remember the smell of rubber mats and old coffee. I remember the boy yelling from the front of the store. I remember the door chime going crazy because he was standing in the doorway screaming for help. The man let go and ran out the side door. A truck driver in the parking lot saw him leave and followed him just long enough to get a partial plate before losing him near the freeway. Police arrived. Then paramedics. I had a swollen cheek, a split lip, and a headache that lasted 3 days. They checked me at the hospital and released me before sunrise. The phone belonged to a woman named Alexis Morales. She had been reported missing by her roommate 2 hours earlier after she stopped answering texts during a rideshare shift. The video on her phone showed the man in the button-up shirt forcing her into the restroom before he ever came to the counter. He had entered through the side door when another customer left and caught her in the hallway while I was stocking the cooler. I never saw it happen. He made her stay quiet. Then, when he realized there were cameras near the hallway, he moved her out during the few seconds I went into the back office to check inventory. That was the part that explained the empty restroom. The knocking I heard later wasn't Alexis inside. It was the man. Police believe he came back through the side door and knocked from inside the restroom after hiding in the employee hallway, trying to draw me away from the register and cameras. Why? They think he wanted the phone. Alexis had hidden it behind the trash can, still recording. He knew it was in there. The boy opening the door before he could get it ruined whatever he planned. Alexis was found that morning at a park restroom 4 miles away. Alive. Shaken. She had gotten away when he stopped the SUV and left the door unlocked for a moment. That's all I was told. I never asked for more details. I didn't need them. The man was arrested a week later after the truck driver's partial plate helped narrow the search. His SUV had fake registration stickers and several stolen uniforms in the back. The police report makes the whole thing sound organized and logical. It wasn't. It was fluorescent lights and a locked door and a teenager looking at me like I was part of the danger because, for a few minutes, I kind of was. I was so scared of being wrong that I almost ignored someone trying to leave evidence behind. I don't work nights anymore. I also don't say out of order, unless I know exactly why. Story 7. People online always ask why I didn't call the cops sooner, like fear comes with a checklist. Here's the truth. At first, he just looked lonely. I was 29, working overnight at a 7-Eleven in a small town outside Pittsburgh after my divorce. My ex kept the apartment, I kept the debt, and my brother let me sleep in his basement as long as I helped with utilities. I took every shift offered because being exhausted felt better than being awake with my thoughts. The man started appearing in October, when the mornings got cold enough that frost formed on the windshield, but not cold enough for snow. Every night at 2:17, he stood across the street near the closed laundromat. He never crossed at first, just stood beneath the awning, facing the store. The first few nights, I assumed he was homeless. Then I noticed his clothes changed. Different jacket, different shoes, always clean, always neutral colors. On the 6th night, he crossed the street and stood near the gas pumps. On the 8th, he stood by the propane cage. On the 10th, he stood directly outside the front doors. He never bought anything, never asked for money, never spoke. I told my manager Rob, and Rob said, "As long as he's outside, he's not your problem." That was how Rob handled everything. If it didn't affect inventory, it wasn't real. So I made my own system. At 2:10, I stopped going into the cooler. At 2:15, I stayed behind the counter. At 2:17, I watched the doors. On the security monitor, his face always looked washed out. I blamed the glare from the lottery sign. Then I stepped outside one afternoon and realized the sign didn't hit that angle. He was doing something to the cameras. When police finally reviewed footage, they said he wore a clear face shield sprayed with reflective coating. It bounced infrared light and made his features blur at night. That sentence sounds technical. In real life, it meant he had practiced being unrecognizable. The night he came in, the store smelled like burnt coffee and floor cleaner. 2:17. Door chime. He walked straight to the counter and placed a receipt in front of me. It was old, faded, dated October 14th, 2014. Same store. Same time. Cashier, Daniel M. My name is Daniel Mercer. I had started there 6 weeks earlier. I said, "What is this?" He didn't answer. He tapped the receipt twice. Then he whispered. He opened the door. My mouth went dry. "Who?" He smiled without showing teeth. "You will too." Then he left. Police came. Rob came. Everyone suddenly cared. The receipt matched a real transaction from 2014, the night a cashier named Daniel Moore vanished during an overnight shift. Same first name, different last name, similar age. He had stepped outside after a man claimed his car wouldn't start. He never came back in. That detail had been kept out of local articles. The man with the receipt knew it. Detectives questioned me for hours. Did I know Daniel Moore? No. Had anyone contacted me online? No. Had I posted about working nights? Yes, stupidly once on a private Instagram story. Did I wear my name tag in the post? Yes. They think he targeted me because of the name. Maybe he was connected to Daniel Moore's disappearance. Maybe he just knew enough to imitate it. The worst part is nobody could prove which. 3 months later, hikers found old employee keys buried near a creek outside town. One key fit the old 7-Eleven back door. The man was never identified. I moved away that spring. I don't post my job online anymore. I don't wear name tags outside work. I don't help strangers with cars after dark, no matter how guilty I feel. Because sometimes danger doesn't rush you. Sometimes it stands across the street for 10 nights, teaching you to get used to it. And then it waits for you to open the door. Story 8. The first thing I noticed was the sign. Not the guy watching me from the chip aisle. Not the cashier pretending he hadn't seen me walk in. Not the black Honda idling crooked outside the front window with its headlights off. Just the sign. It was taped beside the coffee machine with 2 strips of clear tape, written in thick black marker on the back of a lottery printout. Free coffee after 12. Ask the cashier. I remember thinking it looked too messy to be official, but at that point in my life, free anything felt like a gift. I was 21, a junior at Arizona State, living in Tempe with 3 roommates and pretending I wasn't drowning. My mom had been laid off that spring, my financial aid had gotten messed up, and I was working closing shifts at a sandwich shop 5 nights a week just to cover rent and gas. That night, I had a statistics exam at 8 in the morning, and exactly $3.12 in my checking account. So yeah, when I walked into that 7-Eleven at 12:17 a.m. and saw free coffee, I wanted it to be real. The store was one of those corner 7-Elevens by a wide road that never really goes quiet. Even after midnight, there were cars rushing past, brakes hissing at the red light, someone's bass rattling from an apartment parking lot nearby. Inside, though, it felt weirdly still. The fluorescent lights buzzed above me. The floor was recently mopped, and the whole place smelled like cleaning solution, burnt coffee, and old hot dogs. The cashier was a guy I had seen maybe twice before. Older, maybe late 40s, with tired eyes and a gray hoodie under his red work vest. He was behind the counter, scrolling on his phone, but he looked up too fast when I came in. I pointed at the sign and gave a little awkward laugh. "Is the coffee actually free?" His face changed. Not scared exactly. More like irritated and confused at the same time. "What sign?" I looked back at it, thinking maybe I misread it. But there it was, taped right beside the French vanilla machine. That one. He came around the counter slowly, like he didn't want to get too close to it. He stared at it for a few seconds, then looked at me. "I didn't put that there. I should have left." That sounds obvious now, but at the time I was exhausted. And broke. And embarrassed, because I thought maybe I had made a big deal over some employee joke. "Oh," I said. "Sorry. I just thought." He cut me off. "Don't take anything for free unless I tell you." His tone wasn't rude. It was sharp, like a warning. I nodded and turned toward the door, but then he sighed. "Wait, just take a small one. It's fine." I remember him looking out the front window as he said it. That should have been my second sign. I took a small cup and filled it halfway. The coffee was old, bitter, probably sitting there for hours. I put a lid on it and turned around. That was when I noticed the man in the corner. He was standing near the chips, half hidden behind a rack of beef jerky, wearing a dark green jacket and a baseball cap pulled low. He wasn't shopping. He had nothing in his hands. He was just looking at me. At first I thought he might be homeless or drunk. There were always people hanging around that store late at night. Then he whispered something. I didn't catch it. "What?" I asked, because I'm stupid when I'm tired. He leaned slightly into the aisle. "You shouldn't have taken it." The cashier snapped his head up. "Hey," he said. "You need to buy something or leave." The man didn't look at him. He kept looking at me. "You didn't ask the right person." My stomach tightened. I gave the cashier a nervous look, but he was already reaching under the counter. I found out later that was where he kept a panic button, but right then I thought he was grabbing a weapon. The man in the cap smiled, barely. Then he walked to the back of the store, past the bathrooms, and into the little hallway by the emergency exit. The cashier muttered, "Not again." I froze. "Not again?" I asked. He didn't answer me. He came out from behind the counter and walked over to the coffee area. He ripped the sign down so hard one piece of tape stayed stuck to the wall. Under it was another sign. Same size. Same black marker. "Free coffee after 12. Ask the cashier." But underneath that, in smaller writing, someone had added, "Now wait by the back door." I stared at it, and for a second my brain just refused to accept what it meant. Not because it was impossible. Because it wasn't. Someone had put one sign over another. Someone had been standing near the coffee machine before I came in. Someone had been watching to see if I followed directions. The cashier tore that one down too. There was another underneath. Then another. Not all the same. Some said, "Free taquito after midnight. Ask for the manager." One said, "Phone charger in back. Just knock." Another said, "Restroom closed. Use side door." The cashier's hands were shaking by the time he pulled the last layer free. That bottom sheet was older. Yellowed. The tape had gone cloudy around the edges. And written on it were names. Not messages. Names. Maybe 12 of them. First names mostly. Some with descriptions beside them. "Blue backpack. red hoodie, night bus girl, tall guy with limp, ASU kid, black Civic. Then I saw mine. Not just my first name, my full name, written in smaller letters near the bottom with a note beside it. Comes in tired, usually alone. Late. The coffee slipped out of my hand and hit the floor. The cashier grabbed my arm and pulled me behind the counter. Call 911, he said. He didn't have to tell me twice. My fingers barely worked. I told the dispatcher my name, the address printed on the counter mat, and that there was a man in the store trying to lure customers to the back. While I was talking, the cashier locked the front door remotely from a button under the register. The man in the green jacket came back from the hallway. He stood at the end of the aisle, saw us behind the counter, and just stopped. He didn't run at us. He didn't yell. That somehow made it worse. He lifted his hand and pointed at me. Then he mouthed something. I couldn't hear it through my own heartbeat, but I knew what it was. Not you. The cashier grabbed a box cutter from under the counter and shouted, "Get out!" The man slowly backed away toward the hallway again. The emergency exit alarm screamed a second later. Through the glass door, I saw him cut behind the building. The black Honda outside pulled away with its lights still off. Police got there in 6 minutes. I know because the 911 call recording later showed I stayed on the line for 14 minutes total, and I remember the dispatcher telling me officers were outside while I was still crouched under the counter with spilled coffee drying on my shoes. They found the emergency exit propped open with a folded piece of cardboard. Behind the store near the dumpster, they found a folding chair, cigarette butts, a fast food cup full of rainwater, and a small notebook wrapped in a grocery bag. I didn't see the notebook, but an officer asked me if I owned a black Honda Civic, if I worked at a sandwich place, and if I usually got off around midnight. That was when I started shaking so hard I couldn't stand. The security footage explained part of it. A man had come in 11 minutes before me and put up the first sign. He stood by the coffee station, pretending to stir a drink, until he saw my car pull in. Then he moved to the chip aisle. The cashier told police similar signs had appeared twice before, but he had assumed it was teenagers messing around. One girl had reported a man following her to her car 2 weeks earlier. Another customer had said someone tried to convince him the free item pickup was at the back door. The names under the signs were what changed everything. Police believed the man, or maybe more than one person, had been watching late-night customers for weeks. Maybe longer. They said people like that look for patterns. Same car, same time, same tired walk, same person alone. I asked how they got my full name. The officer didn't answer directly. Later, I figured it out myself. My sandwich shop name tag had my first name on it. My student parking pass hung from my mirror. My backpack had a luggage tag my mom made me keep after I lost it freshman year. I had been walking around with my life labeled. They never caught the man in the green jacket. They found the Honda abandoned 3 blocks away with stolen plates. The notebook had descriptions of people, cars, schedules, little details that made me feel sick when the detective read them back to me. Looks down when walking. Always pays cash. Phone almost dead. Too polite. That last one was mine. I stopped going to that 7-Eleven. Then I stopped going anywhere late at night unless I had to. I changed my route home. I took my parking pass down. I ripped the luggage tag off my backpack and threw it away in a campus trash can. For months, every handwritten sign made my chest tighten. Garage sale. Room for rent. Free couch. Lost dog. It's stupid, but I read every one like it might be talking to me. The worst part isn't that someone tried to lure me outside. It's that I almost helped him do it, because I was tired and broke and didn't want to seem rude. That's what still bothers me. Not the sign. The fact that he knew I would want the free coffee enough to ignore the feeling in my stomach telling me not to touch it. Story 9. When I got back to my car, the engine was cold. That was the first thing that made no sense. I had left it running. I know that sounds careless, but it was January in Ohio, and I was only going into 7-Eleven for a bottle of water. The store was 50 feet away. I could see my car through the front windows. I had been awake since 4:30 that morning, and I didn't want to sit in a frozen seat for the rest of the drive home. I was 29 then, working maintenance at a hospital in Dayton. 12-hour shift, sometimes 14 if something broke and nobody else answered their phone. That week had been bad. Pipes freezing. boiler alarms, nurses asking if we could fix heat in rooms where patients were already shivering. By the time I pulled into that 7-Eleven, my whole body felt hollow. I remember going in. I remember the bell over the door. I remember grabbing a water from the cooler. I remember the cashier saying, "Long night?" I remember paying. Then I remember walking back outside and feeling like the air had changed. My car was sitting in the same spot, but the headlights were off. Exhaust wasn't coming from the tailpipe. The windshield had started fogging along the edges. I thought maybe I had turned it off without remembering. Exhaustion does strange things. I've put milk in a cabinet before. I've opened my phone and forgotten why. Then I checked the time. 1:46 a.m. I had pulled in at 1:04. I know that because I had texted my sister at a red light 2 minutes before. Almost 40 minutes were gone. At first I just stood there in the parking lot like an idiot, holding the bottle of water, staring at my phone. There was one missed call from my sister. One text. "You home?" Then another. "Why did your location stop?" That made my skin go cold. My sister and I shared locations because she was a single mom and I helped with my nephew. She always joked that I drove like an old man, so if I stopped somewhere weird after midnight, she noticed. I turned around and went back inside. The cashier looked up from behind the counter. Young guy, maybe 20, wearing wired earbuds with only one side in. "Hey," I said. "Was I just in here?" He blinked. "Yeah." "How long ago?" He gave me a weird half smile. "Like 10 seconds? I held up my receipt. The time printed on it was 1:06 a.m. He looked at it, and his face lost that smile. "That can't be right," he said. "It is right. I've been outside for 2 minutes. My phone says it's 1:46. He glanced at the register screen, then at the camera dome above the door. "I don't know, man. Maybe the receipt printer's wrong." But his voice wasn't steady. I asked if I could see the security footage. He said no. Store policy. I said I was calling the police then, because either something happened to me or someone did something to my car. That got his attention. While I waited, I stood near the counter and tried to reconstruct what I remembered. In, cooler, water, counter, pay, out, nothing in between. But the more I tried, the more little pieces slid around in my head. There had been a woman by the lottery machine. A man in a brown jacket standing too close to the freezer section. The cashier had asked, "Long night?" Or maybe someone else had. My mouth tasted like metal. The police showed up around 2:05. 2 officers, both calm in that way that makes you feel even more panicked because they're not matching your fear. They talked to the cashier first. Then they checked my car. Nothing broken. Nothing stolen at first glance. Then one officer asked me to unlock it. My glove box was open. I don't keep anything important in there, just insurance, registration, napkins, an old tire gauge. But the folder with my registration had been pulled out and shoved back in wrong. My center console was open too. My spare work badge was gone. That was when the situation changed. The officers asked the cashier to pull the footage. He suddenly became very cooperative. The store had 4 cameras. Front door, register, coffee area, back coolers. The officer let me watch from behind the counter because I kept insisting I needed to see what happened to me. I wish I hadn't. On the footage, I entered at 1:05. I looked exactly how I felt. Shoulders slumped. Hat pulled low. Work jacket dirty at the cuffs. I walked to the cooler and opened the glass door. Then I just stopped. My hand stayed on the cooler handle. For the first minute, it looked like the video had frozen, except people were moving around me. The cashier rang up a customer. A woman bought cigarettes. A man in a brown jacket walked behind me, slow, pretending to look at sandwiches. I didn't move. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. On camera, it looked absurd, like I was asleep standing up. But I wasn't alone. The man in the brown jacket came back 3 times. Each time, he got closer. On the 3rd pass, he stood beside me and leaned toward my pocket. The officer paused the video. "Do you know him?" I didn't. He resumed it. The man took my keys from my jacket pocket like he had done it before. No rush, no panic, just a smooth little movement while I stood there with my hand on the cooler door. Then he walked outside. Another camera showed him unlocking my car, getting in, and sitting there for 9 minutes. 9 minutes. He didn't steal the car. He didn't even drive it away. He opened the glove box, went through my console, took something from the visor, then got out and locked it again. Back inside, I was still standing there. The cashier was on his phone most of the time. At one point he looked at me, frowned, and then looked away. A customer even reached around me to grab a drink. Nobody shook me. Nobody asked if I was okay. I don't say that to blame them. I've been that person too. You see something strange in public, and you tell yourself it's not your business. At 1:43, the man in the brown jacket came back into view. This time he was wearing my hospital jacket. Not a similar one. Mine. The one I had left in the back seat. He stood near the freezer glass, behind me, and looked directly at the camera. That image is burned into my head. Me motionless at the cooler. Him, in my jacket, holding my keys, staring up like he knew someone would watch later. Then he leaned close to my ear and said something. No audio on that camera. Whatever he said, I suddenly moved. I shut the cooler door, walked to the register, paid for the water, and left like nothing had happened. The officer paused the video again. Nobody spoke for a few seconds. Then I said, "What did he do to me?" The answer took a hospital visit and a blood test. I had something in my system that I didn't knowingly take. The ER doctor wouldn't guess how it got there, and the police were careful with their words. They asked if anyone at work had given me food or coffee, if I had left a drink unattended, if I had taken anything from a stranger. I kept saying no, but I was so tired that week. I had been drinking coffee from whatever machine was closest, eating food from break rooms, taking sealed bottles from shared fridges when coworkers offered. That's the part that messed me up. I wanted a clean answer, a single moment I could point to and say, "There. That was my mistake." I never got one. 2 days later, hospital security contacted me. Someone wearing my spare work badge had tried to enter a restricted maintenance area at 3:12 a.m. the same night. The badge didn't work because it had expired, but the camera caught him clearly. Brown jacket, my hospital coat over it. They never found him. Police believed he had targeted workers from the hospital because our badges, uniforms, and cars made us easy to identify. They found 2 similar reports from the area. People losing time. People missing keys or IDs. Nothing dramatic enough to make the news, but enough to make detectives very serious when they called me back. For weeks, I couldn't sleep unless my bedroom door was locked. I stopped sharing location because seeing that gap on my sister's phone made me feel watched all over again. Then I turned it back on because not sharing felt worse. I still go into convenience stores, but never if I'm that tired. Never with my keys in my pocket. Never with my work badge visible. And when I see someone standing too still in public, I don't walk around them anymore. I ask if they're okay. Because the scariest part of that video wasn't the man taking my keys. It was everyone else passing by, deciding I was probably fine. Story 10. The first rule my manager gave me was not about money, cigarettes, or angry customers. It was about the door. He pointed at it during my first night shift, while we were standing in the back hallway between the office and the stockroom. "Don't open that," he said. The door was painted gray, scratched near the handle, with an old employee's only sign screwed into the center. Nothing special. Just one of those ugly metal doors every convenience store has. "What's in there?" I asked. "Old storage. Bad wiring. Corporate doesn't want us using it." That was the whole explanation. I was 23, living in a cheap basement room in South Chicago, and I needed the job too badly to ask questions. My dad had just had a stroke, my mom was taking double shifts at a laundry, and I was sending home whatever I could. So when my manager said don't open the door, I didn't. For the first few weeks, the store felt normal. Normal for a 7-Eleven at night, anyway. Drunk guys buying pizza slices. Nurses grabbing coffee before early shifts. Delivery drivers parked outside with their hazards blinking. Teenagers trying to act casual while stealing candy. The same old man buying 2 scratch-offs every night and saying, "This one feels different," even though it never was. The back hallway was always colder than the rest of the store. The fluorescent light back there flickered if the soda cooler kicked on. Sometimes the office smelled faintly like damp cardboard. But nothing happened. Then I started hearing voices behind the door. At first, I thought it was the radio. There was a speaker in the stockroom that played the same classic rock station all night, low enough to be annoying but not loud enough to enjoy. Around 2 a.m., when the store emptied out, I heard a muffled voice say, "Pack of Virginia Slims." I froze with a box of cups in my hands. We didn't sell Virginia Slims. I only knew that because an older woman had yelled at me about it the week before. I stepped into the hallway and listened. Nothing. Just the cooler hum and the buzz of bad lighting. The next night, I heard it again. This time a man's voice. 2 chilly dogs and a newspaper. We didn't sell newspapers anymore either. There was an empty rack by the door from when the store used to carry them, but now it held phone chargers and cheap sunglasses. I told my coworker, Dana, when she came in for the morning shift. She laughed and said, "That door is haunted." I said, "Don't say that." She stopped laughing. Then she said, "For real, don't open it." That got my attention. "You know what's in there?" She looked toward the office, then lowered her voice. "I know people get fired for messing with it." That should have been enough. But once you hear something behind a door, your brain keeps walking back to it. A week later, my manager, Ron, called out sick. He texted me at 9:14 p.m. "Migraine. You got the store solo till Dana comes at 5. I hated solo nights. Too many hours. Too many chances for something to go wrong. But I said okay because saying no was how you got fewer shifts. Around 1:30, rain started hitting the front windows hard enough that the whole store seemed to shrink into itself. The parking lot emptied. The road outside turned black and shiny under the streetlights. I was mopping near the coffee station when I heard Ron's voice from the back hallway. "Open up." I stopped. The mop handle slipped in my hand. "Ron," I called. No answer. I walked halfway down the hall slow. The gray door was shut. Then his voice came again, muffled through the metal. "Come on, man. Open the door." It sounded exactly like him. Same impatient tone. Same little breath after each sentence. But Ron had texted me from home, and his house was 40 minutes away. I backed up and called him. He answered on the 4th ring, groggy and annoyed. "What? Are you here? What are you talking about?" "At the store. Did you come in?" "No. I'm in bed." As he said that, the voice behind the door said, "Don't call him." I ran to the register and locked the front doors. Ron kept saying my name through the phone, but I couldn't answer. My mouth had gone dry. Then someone knocked from behind the gray door. 3 soft taps. Not random. Polite. Like they didn't want to wake anyone. Ron told me to call the police. I should have. I know that. Instead, I did the dumb thing people do when they're scared but still trying to stay employed. I thought maybe there was a homeless person inside. Maybe a broken vent carried sound from the alley. Maybe some old storage space connected to the empty unit next door. I grabbed the flashlight from under the counter and went back. The knocking stopped. I put my hand on the handle. It wasn't locked. That surprised me so much I almost laughed. Bad wiring. Corporate doesn't want us using it. People get fired for messing with it. All of that, and the door wasn't even locked. I opened it 6 inches. Cold air moved out. Not freezer cold. Basement cold. Damp, stale, with cigarette smoke under it. My flashlight showed a narrow passage, maybe 20 feet long, concrete floor, exposed pipes overhead. It did not lead to old storage. It led to another door at the far end, one with a push bar and a strip of light under it. That was when I understood the building better. Our 7-Eleven shared a wall with an old storefront that had been empty since before I started. Paper covered the windows. I had never thought about what was behind it. I heard voices again. Not from behind me. From the other end. A woman said, "Newport Soft." A man answered, "Register 2 is down." Then someone laughed. I should have closed the door. Instead, I walked down the passage. Every step felt louder than it should have. My flashlight shook against the pipes. Near the far door, I saw boxes stacked along the wall. Not old boxes. Fresh ones. Cigarette cartons. Energy drinks. Phone chargers. Cases of lottery paper. The push-bar door opened before I touched it. A man I didn't know stood on the other side. He was big, maybe mid-30s, wearing a black raincoat and latex gloves. Behind him was the empty storefront. Except it wasn't empty. There were folding tables, a laptop, crates of merchandise, and 3 people sorting through boxes. On the far wall, someone had set up a monitor showing our store cameras. Front door. Register. Back hallway. They had been watching me all night. The man in the raincoat looked as surprised as I was. Then he smiled like we had bumped into each other at a grocery store. "You're not Ron," he said. I ran. He grabbed for me and caught my shirt, but the fabric tore at the collar and I slipped out of it. I hit my shoulder against the wall, kept going, slammed through the gray door, and dragged a rack of soda bottles in front of it. Then the pushing started. Hard. Fast. The rack jumped against the tile. I ran to the front, unlocked the door, and got into the rain without even thinking about the alarm. I called 911 from behind the gas pump while the dispatcher kept asking if I was safe. I could still see movement inside the store. Not customers. Shapes through the glass. Police arrived in less than 10 minutes. By then, the people in the hidden space were gone. But they hadn't had time to clear everything. The official explanation took weeks. The empty storefront next door had been leased under a fake business name. The people inside had been using the shared maintenance passage to move stolen inventory, watch staff, and figure out when deliveries came in. They had audio from the store office, probably from a cheap hidden microphone. That's how they copied Ron's voice. They had recordings of him talking during shifts. The voices I heard ordering old products were recordings too, police said. Maybe to scare employees away from the door. Maybe to test if anyone reacted. Ron was arrested 2 days later. I don't know exactly what he admitted to, but I know he wasn't sick that night. He had helped them set up the access and told employees to stay away from the door. Dana quit before police interviewed everyone, and I never saw her again. I quit too. For a while, I couldn't walk past employee-only doors without feeling like someone was standing behind them listening. A month later, I went into another 7-Eleven across town during the day. Bright sun outside. Customers everywhere. Completely normal. Near the bathrooms, there was a gray door with the same scratched metal handle. As I passed it, I heard my own voice. Not in my head. From behind the door. A recording tinny and low saying, "Are you here?" It was from the phone call I made to Ron that night. I left my drink on the floor and walked out. Police said it was probably someone messing with me. Maybe one of the people who got away. Maybe a speaker planted there just to scare me. They checked, but by the time they did, there was nothing behind that door except cleaning supplies. That didn't make me feel better, because someone had followed me to a different store. Someone had kept my voice. And someone wanted me to know that doors only feel safe when you believe the person on the other side is supposed to be there. Story 11. I still have the receipt. It's in a plastic sleeve inside a folder with the police report, the towing invoice, and the hospital discharge papers from that night. I don't look at it often. I don't need to. I can see every line of it when I close my eyes. I was 32, working front desk at a budget hotel outside Reno. Not glamorous. Mostly checking in truckers, arguing with booking sites, and pretending not to notice things guests didn't want noticed. That night, I got off at 2:42 a.m. after covering for a coworker who kept calling out. I was tired in a way that made my face hurt. My feet were swollen. My car's gas light had been on for 20 miles. I stopped at the 7-Eleven on Kayetsk Lane because it was open and bright and familiar. That's what I remember most. How normal it looked. The orange and green sign glowing over the wet pavement. The coffee machines hissing. The bored cashier watching a tiny TV behind the counter. A delivery guy stacking crates near the entrance. I grabbed barbecue chips and a Diet Coke because that was dinner. I remember joking with the cashier that my body was basically made of caffeine and regret. He smiled politely, not really listening, and rang me up. Then the receipt printed. He handed it to me with the same automatic motion cashiers do 1,000 times a night. I almost threw it away. Then I saw the date. July 18th. It was July 17th. I laughed because I thought the register was set wrong. "Your machine thinks it's tomorrow," I said. The cashier looked at the receipt. His smile faded. "That's weird." He reached for it, but I pulled it back to read the rest. Under my chips and Diet Coke were items I hadn't bought. Duct tape, work gloves, nylon rope, prepaid phone, black beanie. My stomach dropped a little, but not all the way. "Not yet." "Those aren't mine," I said. The cashier frowned at the screen. "Maybe it combined transactions." "Can it do that?" "No." Behind me, the delivery guy stopped moving crates. I noticed because the sound suddenly disappeared. The cashier hit a few buttons. "Let me print another." The second receipt came out slowly, curling over itself. Same date, same items. Only this time, there was another line near the bottom. Customer returned, 3:08 a.m. I looked at the clock above the cigarette rack. 3:06. For a second, nobody moved. Then the cashier said, "Ma'am, did you come in earlier?" "No." "Are you sure?" That made me angry, which was better than being scared. I think I'd remember buying rope at 3 in the morning. He didn't respond. He looked past me toward the front window. I turned. A man stood outside near my car. Not leaning on it. Not breaking in. Just standing beside the rear passenger door with a 7-Eleven bag in his hand. He wore a black beanie. The same item listed on the receipt. I felt my body go cold and loose, like all the blood had dropped into my shoes. "That's not yours?" the cashier asked. "No." The delivery guy said, "Don't go outside." The man by my car looked up. I couldn't see his face clearly because the parking lot lights reflected off the glass, but I saw him raise his hand. He clicked something. My car lights flashed. Once. Unlock. I started shaking so badly the receipt crinkled in my hand. My purse was on my shoulder. My keys were inside it, but my car had unlocked. The cashier grabbed the phone and called 911. His voice changed completely. Fast. Professional. Like he had done it before. "We have a woman here. Someone is at her vehicle. Possible stalking situation. He has a bag. He just unlocked her car somehow." The man outside opened my rear passenger door and got in. I made a sound I don't remember making. The delivery guy moved in front of the entrance and locked the door manually. The cashier told me to get behind the counter. I did. From there, I could see the top of my car through the window. My brake lights came on for half a second, then off. The dispatcher told us police were on the way. Those 7 minutes felt like an hour. The man didn't drive away. He stayed in the back seat. That was worse. He wasn't stealing my car. He was waiting. The cashier kept asking me questions for the dispatcher. Did I know him? No. Was I going through a breakup? No. Had anyone followed me recently? I didn't know. Did I work nearby? Yes. Where? I told him the hotel name, and saying it out loud made me realize how easy I was to track. Same shift. Same uniform. Same parking spot. Same gas station after work when I was too tired to go somewhere else. A police cruiser pulled in from the north entrance with its lights off. Another came in fast behind it. The man in my back seat tried to get out, but the delivery guy yelled, "He's moving," and the cashier repeated it into the phone. Officers surrounded the car. He didn't fight. He just stepped out with his hands raised, calm as anything. That calmness still bothers me. Inside the 7-Eleven bag, police found the items from the receipt. Tape, gloves, rope, a prepaid phone, the beanie packaging. They also found a printed copy of my hotel work schedule folded in his pocket. Not the whole staff schedule, just mine. My name was highlighted. The official explanation was both simple and somehow worse than anything I had imagined. The man had used the self-checkout earlier that night when the store was busier. The register's clock had been off by 1 day because of a system error after a power outage. His receipt got jammed or suspended in the printer queue. When I checked out later at the same register, the system printed parts of both transactions together. That was the innocent part. The terrifying part was everything else. He had been at the hotel. Security footage showed him in the lobby 2 nights earlier, pretending to look for a vending machine. He never booked a room. He just watched the front desk. At one point, I walked away to help a guest, and he leaned over the counter. That was where my spare car key had been. I kept it in the side pocket of my purse because my main fob had been acting up. I had set the purse behind the desk. He didn't take the whole thing, just copied the fob signal or swapped something, police said. I'm still not fully clear on the technical part. What matters is that he could unlock my car. He had also taken a photo of the posted schedule in the back office when a housekeeping door was left open. The customer returned at 3:08. Line wasn't a prophecy or a glitch from the future. It was a return timestamp from his earlier transaction, printed wrong because the register was mixing logs. But that tiny error saved me. If the receipt had printed normally, I would have walked outside. I would have gotten into my car. I would have adjusted my mirror, maybe seen him too late, maybe not seen him at all. The police report called it an attempted unlawful restraint and suspected stalking. The DA used other words later. Legal words. Cold words. He had no connection to me. No reason. No history. That part made people uncomfortable. They kept wanting there to be a reason. A rejected customer. An ex. A fight. Something. There wasn't. He saw me at work, learned my routine, and decided I was someone he could reach. For months after, I couldn't sit in a car without checking the back seat, then checking again, then checking with my phone flashlight, even in daylight. I stopped wearing my hotel name badge outside the building. I stopped saying my shift out loud near guests. I stopped being polite to men who hung around the lobby too long. People call that paranoia. Maybe it is. But I think paranoia is what people call awareness when nothing has happened to them yet. That receipt is still in my folder. July 18th, 3:08 a.m. A list of things I didn't buy, printed by mistake, warning me about a man who had already decided the rest of my night for me. Story 12. The hot dog was in the third slot from the left. I remember that because I had already thrown it away twice. At 1:10 a.m., it looked old. Split at the end, dark from sitting too long, rolling slowly under the heat lamp like it had nowhere better to be. I used the tongs, dropped it into the waste bin, and wrote it down on the spoilage sheet. At 1:43, it was back. Same slot, same split end, same little burnt mark in the middle. I stood there staring at it while the roller grill clicked and turned. I was 27 then, working overnights at a 7-Eleven near an industrial park outside Tulsa. I had taken the shift because it paid $1 more and because my divorce had wrecked my finances. My apartment was half empty, my sleep schedule was ruined, and I was living on gas station coffee and microwave burritos. That store was never fully quiet, but it had dead stretches. From midnight to 2, you got warehouse workers, truckers, cops, the occasional drunk couple arguing over snacks. After 2, the world thinned out. The parking lot lights buzzed. The ice machine kicked on and scared you even when you knew it was coming. The cooler doors hummed like something breathing behind the glass. I told myself one of the earlier customers must have grabbed a hot dog, changed their mind, and put it back. Gross, but possible. So I threw it away again. At 2:16, it was back. Third slot from the left. This time I felt something small and cold move up my spine. I checked the waste bin. The 2 hot dogs I had thrown away were still inside, wrapped in paper towels. So it wasn't the same one. It just looked the same. That should have made me feel better. It didn't. I went into the office and pulled up the camera system. The roller grill camera had a bad angle. You could see the front of the grill and the coffee station, but not the left side where the tongs hung. Corporate had been fixing it soon for 6 months. I rewound the footage. At 2:09, I was in the back stocking beer. The grill was empty on that side. At 2:11, the front doors opened. A man in a gray hoodie came in, walked straight to the coffee machine, and stood there with his back to the camera. He didn't pour coffee. He didn't buy anything. He stood there for 23 seconds, blocking the grill. Then he left. When the camera view cleared, the hot dog was there. I watched it 3 times. The man had put it there. That was all. Weird, but human. Some drunk guy messing with me. I wanted to believe that so badly I said it out loud. Just some idiot. Then the store phone rang. I jumped hard enough to knock my knee into the desk. When I answered, nobody spoke. I could hear wind. Traffic. Then a faint metallic tapping sound. Hello? A man whispered, third slot. I hung up. For about 5 seconds, I did nothing. Just stood in the office with my hand still on the receiver. Then I locked the front doors. We weren't supposed to lock during business hours unless there was an emergency, but I decided a man calling the store about a hot dog he placed while blocking the camera counted as one. I called my assistant manager. No answer. I called the store manager. Straight to voicemail. Then I called 911. I almost didn't. I kept thinking how stupid it would sound. There's a man putting hot dogs on the grill. But when the dispatcher answered, something in me broke. I told her there was a suspicious man watching the store, that he had called the phone, and that I was alone. She told me to stay inside, keep the doors locked, and avoid the back entrance. The second she said back entrance, I looked down the hallway. The door was closed. I had checked it at midnight. I always checked it because the latch stuck. At least, I thought I had. The store phone rang again. I let it ring. The sound filled the whole building. Too loud. Too normal. It rang 6 times, stopped, then started again. Then the radio above the coffee station crackled. It was supposed to play ads and music from some company-approved station, but all I heard was the same weather alert repeating. Severe thunderstorm warning for Tulsa County. There was no storm. Outside, the pavement was dry. The sky was clear enough that I could see the moon reflected in the windshield of a parked pickup across the lot. The alert repeated. Same sentence. Same static. Then I noticed the clock above the cigarettes. The minute hand twitched backward. Not smoothly. Just a little jump. 2:31 to 2:30. I stared at it, and for a second I thought I was losing my mind. Later, police said the clock had been tampered with. Someone had opened the back and messed with the battery, so the hands stuttered. The radio had been set to play a recorded alert through a cheap transmitter plugged into an outlet near the bathroom. I didn't know that then. Then it felt like the store itself had turned against me. A man walked past the front window. Gray hoodie. Head down. He passed from left to right. 10 seconds later, he passed again. Same direction. Then again. It took me way too long to realize what he was doing. The building had a narrow walkway along the side. He was circling it, around and around, letting me see him each time. The dispatcher asked, "Is he trying to enter?" "No," I said. My voice sounded tiny. "He wants me to see him." The hot dog kept rolling. I don't know why that detail bothered me so much, but it did. That stupid hot dog turning under the light, while I stood behind the counter gripping a box cutter and whispering to a stranger on the phone. Then I saw the wrapper. It was folded beside the grill, tucked partly under the napkin dispenser. I hadn't noticed it before. I didn't want to touch it, but I needed to know. I kept the dispatcher on speaker, walked over, and opened it with the tongs. There was writing inside. "You forgot to lock the back door." My body went numb. The hallway behind me made a soft click. Not loud, just enough. I turned. The back door was opening. I didn't think. I ran out from behind the counter and into the drink cooler. That sounds dumb unless you've worked in a store like that. The walk-in cooler had a heavy inside latch and a second exit into the stockroom cage. It wasn't a perfect hiding spot, but it was the only place with a barrier. I pulled the door shut just as I heard footsteps enter the hallway. The dispatcher was still on the phone, but I had dropped it near the coffee station. So now I was in the cooler with no phone, holding my breath between shelves of soda and beer, listening to someone walk through the store. Slow, not searching fast, enjoying it. A voice called out, "Third slot." I clamped both hands over my mouth. The cooler was freezing, but sweat ran down my back. Through the glass door, I saw him pass the end of the aisle. Gray hoodie, gloves, face covered with one of those neck gaiters people wear in winter. He stopped at the roller grill, picked up the hot dog with the tongs. Then he walked toward the cooler. I backed up until I hit cases of energy drinks. He leaned close to the glass door and peered in. I ducked behind a stack of soda crates. The door handle moved. Once. Twice. The latch held. Then red and blue lights flashed across the glass. He ran. I heard him slip near the mop bucket, hit something, then the emergency exit alarm screamed. Police caught him 2 blocks away behind a closed tire shop. He was 26. Local. No connection to me except that he had worked at that same 7-Eleven 2 years earlier and been fired after threatening another employee. My manager knew. Corporate knew. Nobody had told me. He still had an old backdoor key. That was how he got in earlier. That was how he messed with the clock, the radio, and the camera angle. That was how he planted the wrapper and kept putting hot dogs on the grill when I was in the back. It wasn't random. He had been watching overnight workers at that store for weeks, trying to scare someone badly enough to make them run outside or open the back door. Police found notes in his apartment about shift changes, blind spots, and which employees worked alone. My name was written on one page. Next to it, he had written, "Divorced guy. Jumpy. Easy." I hate that word. Easy. I gave my statement at 5:40 a.m. while sitting in the back of an ambulance with a blanket around my shoulders. I wasn't hurt, not physically. The paramedic said my blood pressure was high and my hands were too cold from hiding in the cooler, but I refused the hospital. I quit before sunrise. The next morning, My manager texted me asking if I could cover Saturday. I blocked him. The store stayed open. Of course it did. New cashier, same lights, same coffee, same roller grill turning like nothing happened. I can't pass one now without looking inside. Not at the cashier. Not at the doors. At the hot dog roller. And if there's one hot dog sitting alone in the third slot from the left, I leave. Story 13. This one wasn't on your list, but it fits the same 7-Eleven series. The man at pump 6 knew my name before I told him. That was the detail that kept replaying later, after the police lights, after the statements, after I sat on my bathroom floor at 4 a.m. with my shoes still on, because I didn't want to touch the laces. He didn't say it loudly. He just looked over the top of his car while I was putting gas in mine and said, "Long way from home, Maya." I was 24, driving from Fresno to Sacramento for a nursing assistant interview. I had left too late because my little brother needed a ride, and I had cried in the car for 20 minutes before I got on the highway because I was tired of being the backup parent in my family. That's not me trying to sound dramatic. That was just my life then. I was broke, overworked, living with my mom, helping with bills, and trying to get one job that might lead to something better. The interview was at 8 a.m. I should have slept in Sacramento, but I couldn't afford a motel, so I planned to drive through the night and nap in the hospital parking lot. Around 1:20 a.m., I stopped at a 7-Eleven gas station off a highway exit near Lodi. It was one of those places that feels safe because it's bright. Canopy lights over the pumps, store windows glowing, a camera dome above the door, a police donation sticker on the glass. Everything designed to say, "You are being watched, so nothing bad can happen here." There were only two other cars. A white sedan at pump 6, a dark SUV parked near the air machine. I pulled into pump 4, paid at the pump, and started filling my tank. The night smelled like gasoline and wet fields. Somewhere nearby, a truck engine idled. The store door chimed every few seconds because the cashier had propped it open with a rubber mat. I was checking my phone when the man at pump 6 spoke. "Long way from home, Maya." I looked up. He was maybe 40, wearing a blue work jacket and a baseball cap. Normal looking. That made it worse later. At the time, it made me polite. "Sorry?" He smiled. "Your plate frame." "Fresno." My plate frame did say Fresno, but my name wasn't on it. I pulled the gas nozzle out early, even though the tank wasn't full. He noticed. "Didn't mean to scare you." I forced a laugh. "You didn't." That was a lie. I got into my car and locked the doors. Before I could start it, my phone buzzed. Unknown number. The text said, "You dropped something." My breath stopped. I checked my purse, my passenger seat, my lap. Nothing obvious was missing. Another text came. "Pump 4." I looked out. On the ground near the pump was my driver's license. I still don't know how he got it. Police think he may have taken it from my wallet inside the store before I even noticed him, because I had gone in to use the bathroom first. I remember a woman bumping into me near the drink cooler. I remember apologizing even though she hit me. I remember my purse being open because I was digging for gum. At the time, all I knew was that my license was on the ground outside my locked car and the man at pump 6 was watching me. I didn't get out. I called the 7-Eleven from the number on the pump sticker. The cashier answered bored. "Can you come outside?" I asked. "There's a man out here and my license is on the ground." The cashier looked through the window. The man at pump 6 raised his hand and waved at him, like they knew each other. The cashier said, "He says you dropped it. Do you know him?" A pause. "No," but I could hear uncertainty in his voice. The dark SUV near the air machine turned on its headlights. Not fully, just the amber parking lights. Then the rear door opened. A woman stepped out. Same woman from inside. She bent down, picked up my license, and walked toward my car. I locked the doors again, even though they were already locked. She held up the license with 2 fingers and smiled. "You want this?" I cracked the window less than an inch. "Put it on the hood." She came closer. "I'm trying to help you." "Put it on the hood." Her smile disappeared. Behind her, the man from pump 6 started walking too. That was when I stopped being polite. I hit the horn and held it down. The sound tore through the empty station. The cashier jumped behind the counter. A trucker at the far pump looked over. The woman flinched, then slapped my license against the windshield so hard it stuck under the wiper. The man shouted something I couldn't hear. I threw the car in reverse, dragging the gas hose slightly, because I had forgotten I'd already replaced the nozzle but not closed the fuel door. My tires squealed. I backed away, clipped the curb, and pulled toward the store entrance instead of the exit. The woman ran after me. Not fast enough to catch the car, but fast enough to make me scream. I parked crooked in front of the door and ran inside. The cashier locked it behind me. From inside, we watched the man and woman get into the SUV together. The white sedan at Pump 6 stayed there, empty. That detail confused everyone until police ran the plates. The sedan had been reported stolen. The SUV had plates that belonged to a different vehicle. Officers arrived 12 minutes later. By then, the SUV was gone, but the station cameras had caught enough. The footage showed the woman bumping into me inside and removing my license from the outer pocket of my purse. It showed the man reading my name from it at the pump. It showed them using the license as bait to get me out of the car. The officer said they had seen similar attempts along that stretch of highway. Not always the same people. Same method. A stranded-looking woman. A dropped wallet. A fake problem with a tire. Anything to get someone, usually a tired woman traveling alone, to step away from a locked vehicle. My license was dusted for prints. I had to replace it anyway, because the thought of them knowing my address made me physically sick. For 2 weeks, a patrol car drove by our house at night, because I kept calling the non-emergency line whenever a car slowed down outside. My interview was 4 hours later. I went. I don't remember anything I said. Somehow, I got the job. People like to tell me that part like it makes the story inspiring. Like the lesson is that I pushed through fear and changed my life. But that's not what I think about. I think about how close I came to opening my door because someone held up something that belonged to me. I think about the woman's face changing when I stopped being easy. And I think about the man saying my name like he had earned the right to use it. I don't use cute license plate frames anymore. I don't keep my ID in an outer pocket. And when I stop for gas at night, I take the pump farthest from everyone else, lock my doors between every movement, and ignore anyone who tries to start a conversation, even if they know my name.